Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Thursday evening after work hours and taking out the time to join us for this session. I am Shubhangi, and I'm part of the branding and communications team here at AND. Um, this is a session where we talk about how do you navigate a career in design, and this is a session that is led by Bhavyajeet. But before we go right to the presentation, I would like to take a moment to talk about AND for a little bit. So AND is actually the brainchild of Dr. Jatin Chadda, who's also the CEO and co-founder, CEO and founder of Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is a brick and mortar design school here in New Delhi. So IID was launched in collaboration with Kingston School of Art, London, and Academy is the brainchild of the same person, Dr. Jatin Chadda. It's an online arm where we offer professional courses in UX/UI design, interior design, and graphic design. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about navigating a career in design under the gamut of this Kaleidoscope series that we run. Um, so a little about Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope was conceptualized as a series of online masterclasses that will explore the myriad perspectives of design. Each webinar, talk, or session is conducted by a design maestro capable of breathing life into pixels and colors, and it will leave you wanting more. Today's session, as I mentioned, is led by Bhavyajeet. Bhavyajeet is a creative director, design entrepreneur, and a mentor currently based out of Bangalore. He's one of the top voices in creating disruptive brands and augmented reality experiences. He has co-founded a design studio called High Function, which has already bagged awards like Kyoorius Young Blood Award and NID New Blood Award, etc., and has worked with brands like JBL, to name a few. With that, okay, one hygiene check before I hand it over to Bhavyajeet. There'll be a flow, there'll be an agenda, there'll be a flow to this session today. We'll take the questions at the end of the session. So you'll see a small Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Meanwhile, Bhavyajeet is presenting. If you have any questions, I request you to please put your questions in the Q&A box so that we can answer them systematically at the end of the session. We're also joined by our head of academics today. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I am very excited. With that, I hand it over to Bhavyajeet. Bhavyajeet, please take it over.
Hello. Thank you, Shubhangi. Thank you, and good evening, everyone who all has joined this session. I'm really excited to talk about my journey today. And thank you, Shubhangi, for that introduction. So, why are we doing this? This is the reason. The reason behind it is because when I was growing up, I realized that I had no mentor who could help me navigate through the career and design, right? So, this is our attempt to help you in that. So before going any further, I want to share a small phrase which I live by. And this phrase is by Robert Frost. We might have already read about this when we were in school, that two roads diverge in a wood. Uh, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The reason why I'm talking about this is because this has been the cusp of the whole journey. The journey where I have tried to take different directions. I've tried to do something other than what normal people do, and that has led me where I am today. So you would see the references of this where I'm trying to do different things in the life. So I'll start with a journey of how I started, where everyone after 12th were doing the safer option of doing joining engineering and doing the IIT JEE path. I wanted to do something more creative. Since childhood, I've been someone who would draw a lot. So I thought that it would be a different thing from engineering. And I took part in and I took part in architecture, and I joined that course. I joined that course. I knew that this is going to be something where I can explore my creativity. And I saw a lot of people with different backgrounds there coming with different crazy ideas in architecture. But I felt that I was not in that part. I was doing so many other things along with architecture. And
Bhavyajeet, we've lost you. We can't hear you.
can you hear
Yeah,
me?
now I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So when I was in architecture, I realized that I was doing so many other things along with architecture. I was doing wall murals in the college, like one of this. Whenever I used to go on any site visits, I used to just draw people what they are doing rather than actually doing the site visits. So I realized that I was not that good in architecture, but on many other things. And I saw a lot of my peers crossing me. They were very good, they were very hardworking, and they were getting better scores in architecture as compared to me. I realized one thing here, that I always solely relied on my talent of creativity. But I realized that if you work hard, the hard work always outruns who rely solely on talent. So I realized that if I need to level up my game, I had to work harder. But one fine day in architecture, one of my relative asked me to design a logo for themselves, right? It was more like a free logo. But as usual, I was very interested in a lot of other things other than architecture. While doing architecture, I took up the challenge. And yeah, I went across and started learning what how a logo is done, right? I came across this one case study where this very renowned, famous graphic designer called Paul Rand was approached by Steve Jobs to design this new logo for his new computer startup called Next. And when I was researching about this case study, I came across this video and I understood how this Paul Rand designer took weeks and weeks of time to design that one simple logo. And he gave this whole booklet to all the people, all the stakeholders, and explained individually what was the decisions taken in his designing the logo. When I saw all this, I realized that, okay, like how in architecture, we also spend weeks and weeks to design a building or a structure. A graphic designer is also take that level of detail, that do that level of work to design that small symbol. So that contrast of designing big building to a small symbol, spending the same kind of amount was something really interesting for me. And this led me to get more interested into graphic design in branding. Well, I did my best, and this was the logo which I designed. Uh, I know this is really bad, but the client still took it forward. So yeah, the relative was happy, and but I was not. I realized that creativity is like a blade. You have to sharpen it constantly, or it will lose its edge, right? So I worked upon my skill of illustration. I worked upon on my skills of logo designing, along with doing architecture. And yeah, these are some of the illustrations and designs which I was doing when I was in architecture. I also realized that after architecture, I need to concentrate more on what I liked. And I came across this college, which I knew would enhance my knowledge in design even more. So this college is basically NID Ahmedabad. I wanted to join the graphic design department there. But in order to get into that college was not easy. You had to do something which is really different. And I knew that everyone who will be joining this college have to give this assignment, and they will be bringing a lot of portfolio, big sketchbooks with them. How can I be different from what others are bringing on the table? So what I did was I made like a small pocket size portfolio where I made like a playing card deck, and in individual pages, in individual cards, I did all my illustrations, all my graphic design work in this, and just came into the interview panel with just pocket sized portfolio. That was something I believe was different enough for the panel, and this led me to this college. The journey here has been amazing. Like uh, all the collaborative work you can do with a lot of people, the the kind of work you can do in different disciplines was also something really interesting. Like I could explore ceramics, I was working with collaboration, other people, taking a lot of feedback. I also did take part in some of the film by some film students. This is some of the work I was polishing myself for. So I was also doing UX design. I was also doing merch design, as you can see. So I was designing this merchandise for the college. Every year they used to put like English mein NID. And I thought that because this college is about the design in India, I tried to use Devanagari. So these were some decisions. I was doing very experimental work here, I would say, because it was a safe space. So I was trying to do things like this. As you can see, this is a packaging design, which is a critique or a satire on how the world standards of beauty are actually like a barbecue, like a Barbie in a barbecue was the concept behind it. And it has Like I was having a lot of fun in this college, and uh, I was learning so many things. But by the end of this college, I knew that I understood one thing, which is that whatever you design, you have like the essence of design lies in the principles and not in the medium. If you know the fundamentals of design, if you know those Gestalt's principles, the principle of hierarchy, you can design anything from a logo to a chair. So I was also taught the same thing in architecture school, but because the way it was taught to me in this college, it made all the difference. And now I was ready to go out in the world, and I also wanted to do something different and want to change the medium. Earlier, I was doing all my graphic design on a 2D screen, maybe printing them, but now I wanted to explore from 2D to 3D, right? And how would that become possible? I was looking for a lot of places where I could work, and I found this one startup called Holoworld, and it is a metaverse startup. And they were working a lot in the areas of augmented reality, virtual reality, and robotics. And it felt like a new medium for me where I could explore my design fundamentals to a different space. So these are some glimpses of what we were doing there. So as I mentioned, I was basically doing the UX for the AR and for VR environments. So the UX in AR, VR are very different from what we do in the normal 2D spaces. Where, for example, if you want to drag something in a 2D screen, you use your thumb, but in your VR environment, you have to drag and drop. You need to know the distance of the object from the user in the virtual space environment. So these are some glimpses. This is a veterinary course, which we were, so the whole curriculum of the veterinary, we were putting in the AR and the VR format. Also, we were working with Yuvraj Singh from cricket, one of the cricket legends. We were designing an AR app for him, like so that he could teach students in augmented reality. A student can actually go near the 3D model of Yuvraj Singh and see the whole pitch in front of them. These are some of the projects which I was doing in that startup. One of the other projects which I was doing there was Holo suit. So this was a bi-directional motion capture suit which we were developing. It was one of the first kinds in India, we would say. So once you wear this suit, right, you could actually capture your motions and you can transfer the motion to either a robotic, which is in the physical world, or you can translate those motions into a virtual object as well. And this meant that we could now feel the games also. Like for example, if you're in a shooting game, you would actually feel, or you can do the same things, like you could feel the bullet hitting you. So there was a lot of sensors on on the suit as well, which we call the haptic sensors. And not just the design of the suit, but we were also working on the whole interface for those solo suits. So this was the glimpses of that. We were also doing a lot of concept design because this was a startup. Before even starting a project, we used to go to the investors and pitch them the ideas of how the AR and the VR environments would look like. So these are some of the concept designs which we were doing using a lot of 3D and graphic design involved. One thing which I really liked about this working at this setup was that I was collaborating with a lot of people from different domains. Similarly to how I was doing in the college, I was working with developers, I was working with 3D artists, and that made all the difference, right? Now, I worked there for 3 years and I realized that if I am doing so many things, I am doing so many things with so many people. I already have made that network. I already know how the technology works. Why can't I do all this for myself? How can I use the knowledge from architecture, also the knowledge from NID, also the knowledge from the startup? How can I create something of my own and can put the service forward? This led for me to start a design agency of my own. And yes, so we call it the high function because we believe that we want to work with high functioning clients and we ourselves are very high functioning. And it's not just a regular studio, it's like a very collaborative space where we are inviting all the artists from different disciplines. You can be an XR developer, you can beat maker, and we try to do some immersive things. That is the whole idea behind high function. So now the studio has started. We knew that we had to grow the studio and bring it into the eyes of the world. How do we do that? We take part in different competitions so that we get that recognition as a new startup who is coming up in the country. So there was this one brief by a Kyoorius Design Awards, and they wanted to, for us, the brief was to design a sneaker for Urban Monkey. Urban Monkey, you might know about this brand. So the brief was that you have to design something Indian inspired sneaker and just present. We know that we should not be just putting a sneaker out with some really cool renders. What we thought that let's make a narrative of how the shoe was designed. So we hypothetically made a story where there's this kid who is a cobbler's son. He was always surrounded by shoes. One day he saw the brief of Curious. He went back, he went and saw one of the old wrecked auto rickshaw. He took parts from it, cut the tire off, and then he created his own shoe. And that's how we presented the shoe with a little storyline. So this, as you can see, we made different versions of it. We call it the Kali Pili, Pan Energy, Alfonso, everything inspired from the Indian context. We were lucky enough that we were awarded the Young Blood Award, and we got the little elephant with for it. So that's crazy. Now we know that we have gotten some awards now, but we also needed to work with some big brands. Like as a new startup, as a new design studio, how do you work with big startups, right? So there's this one thing which we knew that we have to put, yeah, how do I attract brands with whom I want to work with? The whole idea was let's make some hypothetical projects for the brands we want to work with, whom we will love with, make those pro bono efforts, and either tag them on social media or send them on cold mails and see if they really like it. So this was one of the example. We really love the brand JBL, and I just made the reel for them. So I just play this reel for them.
The fucking back off of the porch or break a pound down. Get the scrap if it happen to blow, it makes surround sounds. Put the cat on my lap.
So as you can see, this is not sponsored by anyone. Like I myself took my old speaker, just painted it and tagged JBL all across either LinkedIn or Instagram. And what happened is they reached out. They reached out to us and said, "We love your work, and we want to partner with you. We want you to create more reels for us." So after that, a series of reel came forward where we were putting these reels for them. I'll just play one of them for you guys here.
Just come outside for the night. Take your time. Get your time.
So yeah, basically we made a series of reels for them. I'll also want to show you one more with augmented reality. So we were playing around because they gave us the freedom. Play this one as well.
Jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing up bushels of fun. Now the jingle has begun. Jingle bell rock. Jingle bells time, jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air. What a
So yeah, basically the guy was really happy that we were trying different mediums for them. Like we were painting, sometimes they were also in augmented reality. So yeah, that was there. I also want to talk about this one project which we do. So in our practice, we also do a lot of brand design and a lot of web development. So one of the brand called Alice reached out to us, and they were a fintech company, and they came up with a brief, but we want to do something different. As I mentioned, there's an ocean of brands out there. How do we make a brand stand out from what is out there? as we know, in fintech company, people usually go with colors like blue, green, but we wanted to use a very different palette, which is like a very bold and very bold talk, like even the typography which we are using here, the kind of illustration colors, it made it stand apart from what is out there. Another project which we did was Swarga. This is one of the brands which we did for a XR startup. They were also in the same realm where they were exploring a lot of augmented reality, virtual reality, and we made like a different, cool kind of a brand. Where so we did all the whole web experience for them. We did a lot of 3D for them. So yeah, I would say now, as you can see, we in our practice, as you can see, I took a lot of decisions which were different from what usually people go forward for. For example, even taking a decision of going joining architecture was something different, I feel. And then doing like after college in NID, I took a direction of doing something different. Instead of a normal UX, I took a decision to join AR VR. So all these decisions of doing different actions is something I believe has been successful for me. And all this learning together has, like, I have compiled all them, and I believe if you follow these four rules, you are already in the journey of becoming a successful designer. So I would call them as the Bible of becoming a successful designer, which is stay away from mediocrity. This by this I mean is you keep your standards very high, like keep that I want to make something of this level. Look at the best design studios out there and try to create something of that level. Obviously you will not reach that level, but you will reach like 70-80% of it. So you can't do basic stuff because people are doing a lot of things out there. You have to stand apart. You have to keep importance of storytelling in whatever you design. Like I'm asking, if whatever you're designing, there should be a narrative to it. There should be a good reason behind what you did. So try to become a good storyteller. Become your own salesperson. This is a very important one in today's age also. Like you can't be a great designer in just a silos. You have to put your work out there, be vocal about it, put it out there on the internet. So no one will help you but yourself. And you have to stay hungry. You have to keep going, be relevant to what is happening on the world right now. You have to experiment with a lot of mediums so that you can be apart, you can be different from a lot of other things. So that has been my journey right now. If you want to know more about my work, you can follow me here. If you have any other questions regarding how, if I'm in this space, I want to change, I want to transform to a different career path, you can obviously DM me and I will like to help you all. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, do let me know. We'll open the chat box for you all. Shivangi?
Yes, we already have questions. That feels so nice to see you present this because I have known Bhavyajeet for so long. We're practically neighbors. We go back like 10, 12 years now. And we were together in architecture school. And we were actually, Bhavyajeet was one of my first friends in architecture school. And it's so surreal to sort of collaborate again. Um, Wonderful. Bhavyajeet, can we
Yeah.
just go back to the logo that you made in architecture school?
Yo, like I'm proud of it still. I think that was a good one if I could say that I made it in year 2013. So this was made on Photoshop also. So this,
I
as you can
think
see, the understanding of design has completely changed. Like the how do you reduce the visual complexity? How do you minimize the logo? How you make it simple and readable? So all those things have now evolved. But yeah, I'll always keep this one safe.
that's a
Shubhangi,
great.
I can't help but, sort of jump into this in the
Please.
middle of it. Bhavyajeet, I was just thinking of the metaphorical, this thing of the sandu. Huh? It opened up so many possibilities for you in the in the future, in your own mind, and all of that. Sometimes some things just sort of happen in one's life. And I see the point that you're making, that, you know, how your design sensibilities obviously have increased over a period of time. But and you know, I'm just extending what I said, that it's so important to not shy away from the novice mediocre work that we produce as students, you know. So it's very warming for me to see that you put this out today after being successful as a this thing, and you know, you know where you started from, and you're proud of it, or whatever, you're owning it. So, and that's what, like, you know, for me it's metaphorical, that
Yeah.
a chest of the Pandora's box, you know, opening for you.
Yeah, I never saw it that way. Now I will keep it more in mind.
Uh, the,
This
the,
actually, like, this was a sign for me which I never understood at that time.
the lateral thinkers that we are, you
Right,
know, we will
right,
keep connecting dots and keep making new meanings out of it.
right.
But yeah,
Right.
Shubhangi, back to you for sort of.
Yes, we already have some questions pouring in, so let's begin
Okay,
the
let's.
Q&A. So Gautam is asking, what are the most effective strategies for UX UI designers and researchers to stay ahead of the industry trends and continuously upskill, especially in areas like emerging technologies and user behavior analysis? So this is like a loaded question Gautam has asked. There is another part to it, but Bhavyajeet, do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I would say being in UX discipline, it like everything is about user. You have to understand the user to the core, and you can't design without keeping them in mind. Now there is obviously a lot of saturation already in the 2D workspace, and people are now adopting to the 3D immersive environments. I would say do a lot of prototypes. So there are a lot of prototyping tools already on the internet to make your prototypes in the AR VR environment. You don't even need to have like a VR headset to do prototypes in XR. There are already web browsers which helps you design stuff on a 3D environment. So I can use those. Some of them, I would say it's Shape XR. That is one of the tools which you can explore. I would also say, in order to understand the UX in an immersive environment, you also need to look how people interact with objects in the real world right now. For example, if I am opening a door, so there's the action of opening the handle, right? How can I, so people already know that action and they want to see that action replicated in the VR environment as well. So try to incorporate all the same interaction which people usually do in the real world into the VR world or the AR world. So that is going to be something really helpful if you want to transition from a 2D UX designer to a XR UX designer.
So Gautam's second part of the question is, how can transitioning professionals leverage their previous experience, example, experience in architecture, bring unique perspectives to UX UI design and research?
Yeah, I would say if you want to transition, you have to do a lot of hypothetical projects by yourself. You, if you expect that if you have made a portfolio in the UX in 2D environment and then you try to apply for places, you have to have some new projects, hypothetical projects. It can be one of those also. But yeah, I think this is what he's expect and this is what he has asked.
I would like to chime in with a little bit, which
Mm.
is I think your previous experience requires some cognizance for you to recognize that you have learned this, because when we are in the process of learning, we are only thinking learn, or like, accept or reject, this is good, this is bad. um when you get out of that system, then you're like, you apply. But for me, I would personally say that when I got out of architecture, there were so many other things that sort of get inculcated in you that you do not recognize. So that comes with a little bit of a cognizance or awareness that, maybe I picked up observation. Maybe it's a soft skill that you have picked up, but you do not understand or realize how to apply it. But you are applying it. So it's always not very tangible. There might be some like intangible or soft skills also that you're applying, but you're not cognizant of that you are using those.
Yeah.
Bhavyajeet,
Like in my case,
yeah,
because
sorry.
I was,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Bhavyajeet. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just complete this. So because in my case, I was already an architect student before. So I knew how much space a standard space a person would require. And that knowledge was already there in back of my mind. And whenever I was designing things for XR, I knew that, okay, this is the safe distance for a human to reach out to any objects. So as you mentioned, Shubhangi, that all your previous knowledge, which you have already acquired, has to play a role in whatever you design in future.
So
Yes, please continue.
I just wanted to add to this and maybe bring both
Hmm.
a learner's perspective and an educator's perspective into it,
Mhm.
So when we are learning, what happens is that I think Subhangi also mentioned this, that you're so obsessed with getting it right, uh, you know, and when I say getting it right is, finishing an assignment, a project, and getting it right in that project, in that assignment. And a part of it also has to do with the way we are all raised, that somebody in authority, a teacher in a classroom, is going to validate what we have said, and they have all the right answers, and my goal is to meet that right answer and all of that. And
Right.
what happens in this process is actually you lose sight of the pearls. You lose sight of the fact that, like Bhavyaji just pointed out, that actually I'm not learning architecture. I mean, I'm actually learning how humans interact with the environment.
Right.
And that is a subject within architecture which you have to study, but at the core of it, it is just that how do humans interact with their environments, and there are physical aspects to it, and then there are psychological aspects to it also. You were just applying this understanding in a particular context of architecture right now, but actually what you have learned is this. But for you to, like Shubhangi, what you're saying now, that you're not cognizant of it. You're not cognizant of it because you are so obsessed with trying to understand just that you don't understand the dots. Like constantly I keep thinking about, like the coloring books, that as children we used to have these dots that you could connect and create a picture, right? So reaching that picture, and there is one fixed picture. Now imagine this coloring book actually has these dots which you can connect in 5 different ways, and 5 different pictures can come about.
Agreed. That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah. So actually it is these dots that you just need to understand कि ये बात क्या कह रहे हैं. I see it with students at and also, like in a typical UX course you will teach them कि अच्छा ठीक है, user flow, task flow, blah blah blah, whatever 20,000 types of flows that you're making. Now to understand the funda is just understanding the flow and understanding that okay, there is an experience with many steps and I just need to get the steps right. Now what is a user journey map, and when does it become a user flow, and when does it become a task flow, and you can call it anything else and all of that, but it is this which is actually at the core of the learning. So Gautam, if I can add to what Shubhangi and Bhavyajeet said, that if you really want to at and everybody today should be agile, I feel. In a way, if you see, very few of us have stuck to what we studied. Bhavyajeet, I'll share with you, I studied product design.
Okay.
Right? In the good old late 90s, when product design was hardcore, hard products.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
UX as a term had not even taken birth.
Right.
Adobe was launched when I was studying, right?
Okay.
So that is the time that I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
And I studied product design. I worked in product design. Very soon, without me realizing, moved into communication design as a professional. Today, I'm an educator. But if you ask me what am I applying even today as a teacher, I'm still applying my design learning. And not because I'm teaching design.
Correct.
But the way I approach a situation is design.
Correct.
And so I look at a classroom plan as a design.
Correct.
So that's Gautam. I know I've extended and maybe stolen a little bit of the thunder here, but I think that's what, and all of us have to do this. Tomorrow we don't know what this world is going to, what kind of professionals this world is going to require, what kind of jobs this world is going to require. all
Correct.
of us are going to, and if we don't want to stay bored in our life, we better keep reinventing ourselves.
Correct. I truly agree that because it's whatever you've learned, the design thinking, you can apply it in your life as well. Like, for example, if I want to make a sandwich, I can make
Absolutely.
it, I can use those principles and make like a really nice one instead of making a
Bhavyajeet
very.
is saying all the right things.
It's not just in the things we deliver to the client, it's also how you live the life. You actually
Ab-
have to design your own life using the
Absolutely.
same principles.
Wonderful. Absolutely, Bhavyajeet. I love what you said because that's what I believe. I feel that, design is a way of living. Like,
Mm.
if you, when you
Correct.
become like it
Wow.
changes the way you approach your life. If I feel I apply design methodology to everything.
Lovely. Lovely. There's this one more knack I want to talk about is so one thing which was taught in our college was they asked us stop calling yourself as I'm a visual designer, I'm a
Mm.
product designer. Call yourself as a designer. When you start telling this to yourself that I'm a designer, you can design anything because all these principles remain same, right? So stop putting yourself in two boxes and you can, for example, if you know how design thinking works, if you know the fundamentals, you can design anything, right? From a sandwich to a logo to even a plane. Okay.
It's actually the quality that you bring to the
Correct.
doing, which is design. It's not, I'm forgetting the word. There's a word that they use in English which
Hmm.
says that something which can be both a verb and a noun.
Hmm.
So there's a I'm forgetting the word. So there's something that they call that some words are both can be used both as noun and verb and very interchangeably. I
Okay.
find that about design, that design can be a noun and a verb, and very interestingly a quality also, you know
Correct.
so what a wonderful question to kick off today's
Mhm.
conversation. Back to you, Shubhangi.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for your question. Somebody else is asking, what are the key skills and experiences that hiring managers look for when evaluating candidates for UX design positions? And how can aspiring UX designers effectively showcase their abilities and potential in their portfolios and interviews to stand out in the competitive job market?
Yeah, I can answer that. So in all my experience where I was applying to different employers, so there is this many rounds there where you show your portfolio, you show your skills that, okay, this is I'm very well versed with UX and all that. But there's also a very important thing which people usually forget is that how are you as a person? If so, I have seen a lot of people getting selected in the big companies because they were very happy or they were very excited to show what they were showing rather than just being like, okay, this is my portfolio if you like it. So you have to be very excited about what you are applying for. You should be someone who should convey that if I join this organization, I would be a good fit in the team. So you also have to sell not just your work, but also yourself that I'm a good fit here. So all this work is perfectly good. I know people do amazing work out there, but what makes you stand apart if of how you are, how you talk to them, are you respectful to them, or do you understand their culture? And the other thing is that learn a lot about their organization before going into or cracking any interview or anything and ask questions about it so that they will know that okay, this person has taken the effort to understand our organization and is a curious person. So that curiosity they keep in mind, okay, if this person is asking that question when he joins the organization, he will also ask questions which we never asked. So I believe these two are very crucial. The other genuine questions which people would say that you need to show the whole process, you need to, a lot of people already know that, but I wanted to talk about these two things. I hope that
Yeah,
answers.
that
Very,
makes
very,
sense.
sorry, Shubhangi, very important point, Bhavyajeet, you raise about it. Of course, I mean, when you're applying for a UX position or any, I mean, whatever is the X,
Yeah,
that you should have that skill is like hygiene or given, you know.
correct,
So if you want to be you're applying for a position of an accountant, you should know accountancy. That's
correct,
given and obviously, and you should be able to demonstrate. And
correct.
I can say this as a recruiter, I think in a year I look at some 200
Yeah.
plus 300 probably, I don't know, portfolios. When my HR send me a deck of at least 15, 20
Mm.
portfolios in one go.
Correct.
And portfolios is, yes, one and very important, because it's like, probably, Bhavyajeet, would you say that it's like that thing that gets your foot in the door, but then there is a
Yes,
lot more that happens after that.
for sure, for sure. And I would also add that if you can show the portfolio in a very different way, like people show Behance, people have now transitioned to websites. Is there a different way to be different from all the 200 applications you are sending? So the whole cusp of whatever I have said today is that you have to think out of the box. If you want to apply, is there a way? Maybe can you send a prototype, right? Is what I want to say. So there can be like different ways of sharing your work, which you know what other people might not be thinking. So if you can try something other than what people are doing rather than a small email, you should try that.
Actually, I'll add to what Bhavyaji just said. I'll tell you from a recruiter's point of view, what does it demonstrate me? It doesn't only demonstrate to me your ability to think out of the box, or it also demonstrates to me how how invested you are in this profession,
Right.
how interested, what is it, it is a, if there can be a passion quotient uh, to it,
Right.
because is this just a job for you, is this just a means of earning livelihood for you,
Yeah.
am I, as a recruiter, one of the many options for you, uh, is this discipline, this profile, this career one of the 20,000 things that you could have done, or are you really, like, are you cut out of the same this fabric? Is this what you want to do? So when you take a little bit of effort, and Bhavyajeet, I hope, has given a few other pointers, being aware of the organization, I think very important. I get so put off, when when a candidate I'm interviewing, and our HR normally would send them a couple of things, like a website link and a few other things, and then I ask them something and they would be like, oh, I didn't have the time to go through it. Then I don't have the time to look at your application. I'm going to be as blunt as that, that if, and it's not about being interested in me, it's about also demonstrating to me how interested you are in your future. Why would you go for an interview without exploring whether that organization is even aligned to your career goals and your aspirations?
Right.
So if you're not interested in your own future, why would you be interested in building my organization's future? Is my emotion, like, exactly out there? So knowing
Yeah.
about the organization is so very important. And yeah, I think I
That's
also
true.
wanted to just add for our audience the the factor about professional conduct. Bhavijit, would you like to comment on that? I'm sure you're also, because you mentioned about collaborating with people, and so how do you go about, sort of vetting out that, because you don't want to waste your time, sort of exploring an opportunity that may be counterproductive to you or your, startup in the future. How do you, what are you looking for, and what role does professional conduct of the person who has approached you, uh, what role does it
Yeah.
play for you? And maybe if you can give an insight with a couple of examples that, when somebody does this, then this translates like this for me. So
Yeah.
would you like to just add to that?
Yeah. Just again confirming the question. Are you asking me to share my experience of as a hiring manager and what do
Yes,
I look at?
yes, yes.
Right.
Hiring
Oh yeah, I think so.
manager or as a
Yeah, yeah.
collaborator, uh,
Yeah. So when I was working the startup, I was obviously on the other side where I was building up a team. And so I joined that company with two people as designers, and then we expanded to 15 people. So we were looking at a lot of portfolios, 200, 300. It was flooding, right? So as I mentioned, people who showed excitement was one thing. Like you really need to show that you really want to work here. And the other thing is that people usually have done very similar kind of projects. So we want to also see projects which are very different. If I say like a lot of people came with the portfolio in their in the portfolio projects like okay, I've designed a taxi experience, I have a taxi booking experience, or I have designed a food delivery experience. So those projects, the world has seen a lot of them. We were looking for some crazy project because the organization was also like that. It was a startup. We were looking for adventurer people. So one portfolio which came across where like he made like a very hypothetical project where it was a pizza delivery app for dogs. It was a very crazy project, and we came on to discussing on that project more than any other serious projects. So you can play around in your portfolio. You can do some exciting stuff because that becomes like a good conversation starter. It breaks the ice, and yeah, be excited of what you do and the way you show the website. If you're still showing things in a PDF, probably it's not the right time because the world has changed a lot. So show your work in a very different form, be enthusiastic, and do some crazy work. Right.
I
So
think I would like to add a little
yeah,
bit to this because I'm a very
yeah,
strong supporter of communication skills. It's like how you write that first email, right? How are you naming your portfolio file? When are you sending that email? Who are you sending it to? What is your signature? Are you just sending it as like, hi, PFA, my portfolio? Are you writing about the organization? What is it that you like to do? This is your first, essentially, it becomes your first interaction, your first impression of sorts with a hiring manager or a recruiter. So, soft skills like that, how to write those tiny emails or on a LinkedIn message if you're doing that. And if you get through the interview round, how do you address the other person? Are you cordial? How do you conduct yourself? Are you coming up in like chappals in your interview? Are you respectful of the organization or not? I understand that your work is great, but you understand that this is still a professional space that we're operating in. We're not in college anymore. So these tiny, tiny things that people don't think about might also just like make a difference in your hiring. So yeah.
yeah,
And not and sometimes like in an online these days a lot of online interactions interviews happen, just how have you stationed yourself, are you moving around with your laptop during the interview, so or the position you can, in the online space you can make out that somebody's sitting cross-legged and has kept their whatever tablet or whatever in a position, so these are,
yeah. That's a turn down. Yes.
yeah, so it's not nice is
Do
how I
not
would.
join from a phone if you're doing an interview. Join from a
Yeah,
video screen device. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All
and
those things also play the
and
role.
don't start an interview with an apology. I'm sorry this happened because for
Yeah.
Be late, not be
uh,
late is one. Yeah.
and or I'm
So, yeah.
sorry for the
Yeah.
background noise. I mean, then plan for it and like, don't
Yeah.
have
I
the background.
also want to bring up one point which I think is very important for the people here is that so in my whole journey, you might have seen I've done uh, like I was stuck in one place and then I changed my career to a different. So I feel that if someone who is in this session who is in a different profession but now think that okay, can I take that leap and join design or I can do that thing, it is possible. You just have to take that step. If I can do it, a lot of people can do it and can help you take that step. So yeah, so the whole point is that even if you are in a completely, so when I joined the master's college in ID, some of the people came from medical background. They were doing the doctors, they were doing their MBBS and then came into design, right? So the transition into a design career is completely possible. You just have to take that leap. Basically, I wanted to share here.
But Bhavyajeet, I want to extend this little
Hmm.
point that you made. I also truly believe that everybody can be a designer.
Hmm. Hmm.
There a lot of times people, and as an educator, so many people approach me and say that, I don't have good sketching skills, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, and
Hmm.
uh, blah blah blah, whatever.
Correct.
So I do believe, I completely agree with you that everybody can be a designer. And I also agree that we can all make a transition at any stage, by the way, in our
Initially.
life when we want to make that this thing.
Correct.
What would you say are three or four? I'm just taking a number. random number.
Hmm.
Key qualities of a design mind, you know,
Hmm.
and really what. Therefore, that those are the 3-4 things to learn in design.
Correct.
Everything else you can, build on. So what do you think are those 3-4 qualities of a
I
design?
would say the first thing would be you have to be very curious. You have to be asking a lot of questions about everything. Like even if you are, for example, watching something on TV, or you have to always keep on asking why this happened, and you should always research on Google. Okay, this is how it happened. So curiosity, I would say anyone who's curious can come into design very easily, can fit in. I would say the other is, okay, let me think of two, three. Curiosity is one. The other, I would say that even so, yeah, one point I also, people think that design is a lot about sketching. It's not about that. It's about if I can draw and explain it to other, communicate to it through the other person, that is enough. So you don't have to be a good artist to become a designer. That is another thing. And the third thing is you have to always, so if you're a person who has a reasoning to whatever they have done. For example, if I had, for example, tied my shoelace in a certain way, if someone asks कि ये कैसे और इस तरह से क्यों बांधी, if you have a good reason for it, then it's like what I have learned in design is that, for example, a lot of people just make a poster and they choose like a blue color. And when the other person asks you, why did you choose blue? And the person says, because I liked it. You can't say I liked it in design. There should be a strong reasoning to it. So if you're a person who is curious, you're a very good fit. If you are someone who has all the reasons to the decisions you make, this is the second quality, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and be a good communicator, whatever
And
may
be a
be
good
the.
communicator. You
Yeah.
can just do dumb stars also, and if you are able to communicate, you can do good in this company.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful list, Bhavyajeet. And I just wanted to add to that reasoning bit
Yeah,
that you spoke about.
yeah.
I have discovered from my own practice as a designer, as well as looking at like so many students, and I keep seeing that who's the one who's very early in the student's journey, that yeah, like something's going to happen with this student.
Hmm.
Is the person who's able to bridge uh, intuition and reasoning. So a little bit of intuition, and intuition is actually just in that moment you can't articulate the reasoning for it, but it has come from some reasoning, which you may not be able to, but that intuition and
Correct.
reasoning, very very important. And I think that is why design is taking the world, taking over world, or design thinking, is because this beautiful overlap of creative thinking, or the out of box thinking, or imagination, whatever people want to call it, and logical
Yeah,
thinking, and like it's a really beautiful marriage of the two. And designers have this unique ability to switch between creative thinking and logical thinking, macro and
correct,
micro, emotional and functional. So I
correct,
think we are like
correct.
those gymnasts, no, who walk on the ropes. Like we do good balancing
Good balance. Yeah.
act.
Yeah, yeah. And I would
Wonderful.
also say that people say that you have to be really creative and to join. I would say creativity can also be induced. Like I have seen a lot of people, like even in my practice, I go through a lot of what to say, brain fog where I cannot get ideas. And there are some exercises which I usually do. For example, I just sometimes go on upstairs and look at clouds and obviously try to see shapes there. I do word association, for example. I join two different words of different streams and join and see if I see something. Do I see a cartoon, or do I see a car, or do I see a product? So all these activities can induce creativity. Even if someone who does not have creative ability as sharp as that, they can induce it basically.
Actually, So this has been some of Bhavyajeet, I'll share with you.
Hmm.
It's been a research interest for me,
Hmm.
as an educator as well.
Okay.
This what you've spoken about, inducing creative
Hmm.
thinking and all.
Yeah.
And so what I have discovered, and I'm not the first one. I mean, there's loads of work that a lot of people have done on this topic. I'm to just one drop in this. But what I've realized through all my readings and also active work with students is actually each one of us is born creative. Creativity is so natural to humans.
Yeah.
Look at a little child. It doesn't take a minute for them to turn a shoe into a truck, you know.
Correct. That's
And
yeah.
that's exactly what you are doing, looking at the cloud and looking at, like, looking at something and making one more meaning out of it. So as
Yeah.
the child very smoothly does it. And
Yeah.
but over the years we sort of bury it somewhere. And these
Yeah.
kind of exercises that you're talking about, and actually, and maybe you have
Hmm.
heard of Edward de Bono speaks about it a lot.
Okay.
Lateral thinking and all of this, when he speaks
Yeah.
about this, is basically you're just altering your perception. So you are
Right.
seeing one thing and seeing, like, making multiple meanings out of it. So yes, those things can be induced. We can learn techniques for all of these. We can learn techniques for logical reasoning also. uh,
Correct.
but the attitude of
Yeah.
curiosity,
Yeah.
so for designers, which is the favorite alphabet, it is the Y. I'll tell you.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
as a new designer, there's one more thing which I want to add
yeah.
is, which I have experienced this feedback. Like people do not take feedback very positively. They sometimes take it's an attack on them. One of the major changes which I have learned in design is that I might have heard from my professor, I would have made a better design. So take feedbacks if you're in the starting of your career. Don't take it on personal. It's not an ability question. It's more about the design thing. So take feedbacks from a lot of people, but then analyze by yourself. But take a lot of feedbacks
Yeah.
and
Not
take
only
it
at the
with an
beginning of
open
your
heart.
career, right till, I
Maybe
mean,
yes, yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
still show my designs
yeah.
to my parents who do not understand these AR, VR as much. But I want to see, okay, if a layman, how would they perceive this? So taking feedback is also a very important, crucial part as a designer, which everyone should take
Actually,
care.
I don't know if you guys, both of you, were subjected to this kind of a thing, but in our times, it was a very common practice to, sort of tear apart
Hmm.
a sketch, right?
Yeah.
So,
And we've seen it all. We've seen
Yes,
it all.
yeah.
we are also,
And
we have seen the age of pre-chat GPT. So we have seen.
so it's very heartbreaking. And I mean, we can discuss about the whatever of it. I'm not saying that it's a good practice or whatever. I'm not making a comment, but I just want to bring a little bit of metaphor into it. The
Hmm.
metaphor of it is that, when you're able to do that to your design,
Hmm.
metaphorically,
Nice.
when you can when you can there's a lot of blood and sweat and that has gone into that. But if you can tear apart your design,
That's a great
it's,
point. Yes.
and that is important. And whether it comes as an outcome of somebody's feedback or a feedback that you are giving to yourself, but using it constructively, not to feel low and small about it or feel disappointed or disheartened or like a failure, but to see that also as part of your process. you know I think that's where the beauty of, I mean, the iterative process of design is, to uthao, banao, todo,
Yeah.
fir banao, like, take it apart, break it again.
I think
And
this
Love.
is something that I sort of learned in art school, which is when we used to say, like, make stories with photos and whatnot. So, what our mentors would do, they would do this exercise with us. They would be like, which is your favorite photo of the lot? Like, say you put like 5 photos. And
Hmm.
of course, you're going to pick like what you think is your best product. Maybe it doesn't showcase the story, but you think these are your best things that you have created. And they would say that pick out your best photos that you think are your favorite. And then we would pick them out very happy. Just, we'll just like show, oh my God, now we're going to get graded for these. But then they would go on to say, okay, now you've taken out these best photos that you like. Now you take these photos out of the edit and then you make a story for us. Because the story is what you're trying to communicate. You have to get detached from what you have created, and then you have to get attached to the story that you're trying to communicate. So this is one exercise that we also used to do to just
Like
like move forward.
be fully invested but
Yeah.
completely detached.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one quality that I feel should be in a designer, is to be able to how do I put it? Like to be that jugaad person, to see a truck and make a shoe out of it or whatever.
Mm.
So to be able to mix and match and mold and create and bake and take it apart and put it together again. So
Yeah.
this I feel is one quality that designers should have.
Be a gymnast in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one thing which I usually do is I always pick my third idea. Like, because I know any brief which comes, the first idea and the second idea usually, which a lot of people might have already thought. For example, any logo project comes. For example, it's a Ayurveda company. People would think, okay, leaf, I would do this, I would do this. Always chunk the first two, three ideas. And when you are out of all those ideas, like Shubhangi said that जो five things जो तुम्हें पसंद थी उसको side में रखे अब वापस सोचो. So what is that new thing which you can think? That's how you also create something which is different from everyone else. And then you also detach from, okay, this I already like, but अब मेरे को इसे दूर करना पड़ेगा.
So in and Bhavyajeet, we call this the first step of ideation as the messy ideation, and
Right.
we say that it's going to be messy, and the objective is to create bad ideas.
Love it.
So after you have created 20 bad ideas,
Yes.
21st one, the good one will automatically happen.
Nice.
So but ये तो हम ऐसे बड़े खुशी से बोल देते हैं, but it takes a lifetime for our
It takes a lifetime. Yes.
for
Yes.
our
Yes.
students to accept what we are saying. Ki, what are you saying? Make 20 bad ideas. This is our target for tomorrow, that we make 20 bad ideas and come. Like, yeah, make 20 bad ideas. I don't like good ideas. Show me 20 bad ideas.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Well,
Correct.
wonderful. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Same. I learned a lot
We've
from you.
come to the last question of the evening, which
Yes.
is by Shalinder, and then we can close this session.
Yes.
Shalinder is saying, I'm currently working. Are there any part-time options available for design degrees like master's or PhD? Shalinder, I would like to inform you about a little entity called An Academy, which does not give you a master's or a PhD, but a PG diploma or a certificate in graphic design, UX design, or interior design. So come join us. We'll reach out to you. But yeah, I think this has been a great, great session. Oh, there are more questions.
One more question.
Debasmita is asking, it's important to show your work on social media. How will you advise a beginner designer to do that?
So I would, and because we are living in today's time, I would say make a video format. Like if you want to showcase your work, you have to make it in a video format, which is consumable. Because if you're putting it out there, people need to consume it. And nowadays people are consuming video formats, short video formats. So if you can compile that in that format. The second thing I would say is look at what the best people are doing. I always say this to my teammates also. Like you see that, okay, I follow this artist. This is what I want to become. Look at how he is putting the work out there. Try to replicate that. There is no, so I do not call it as copying them. I would say inspiring from them, because you cannot copy exactly what they are doing, how they are making the reel or how they are making that design. In the process of replicating that, you would find your own design or you would find your own style there. So I would say go out, put out work in a video format because that's more consumable. And the other is replicate your idols, because you will not be able to copy it exactly. You would make something of your own.
And just put it out again.
They also, Bhavyajeet, they say, I've read this somewhere, that you find your voice by first imitating others' voice.
Correct. Correct.
So you start, all of us start by doing that, and gradually. So I was just thinking that, you spoke about curiosity, but actually in your narrative, two more things have come across. One is courage, and the other is commitment.
Yeah. I would say that, yes.
Yeah,
That is
courage,
also good one.
courage to put your ideas out, courage to follow your dreams, courage to, try, make a fool of yourself.
Exactly. You have to make a fool of it. Courage to actually make something weird, which people might get mixed reactions. But at least it will make you different from
No,
others.
the example you showed us about JBL, and you created something and had the audacity, if I can say this, to
Yeah,
post it
yeah,
and tag
yeah.
them. And so many people will be like, nahi, nahi, kyun, kaise,
Uh,
kya, you know.
correct, correct,
Uh,
correct,
so
correct.
you took a chance, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you took 20,000 other chances, but one hit, you
I
know.
did reach out to different brands,
Yeah,
but JBL
yeah,
was I was always using JBL. I was, let's make something, and see, we have to also believe that some good things will happen to you. I knew that someone will see my work, so those you have to also keep belief in yourself. That
You
is
have to
also
visit us in the AND office now, Bhavyajeet.
for
There's a
sure,
lot.
for sure.
There's a lot. I think Shubhangi will
This will be the third
coordinate.
person. This will
Uh,
be the third person from our college whom
Uh,
I know. There's one that is me, there's Ruchika, and now this will be Bhavyajeet. The
yeah,
third person,
Ruchika.
there's much.
Yeah,
I would love to meet you, ma'am. First of all, like you seem like a very interesting person, and I can hold a good design conversation with you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
we,
was.
we'll do a chai pe charcha
Let's
outside
do
of the
that.
AND office.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, no, because it's interesting, I mean, that's why I enjoy being in the education field, because what happens is that you tend to meet so many design minds when you're
Correct.
working in a corporation or in like anywhere ना कितने मिलेंगे मतलब
Correct.
there's a limit to it ना, but यहाँ
Correct.
तो जिससे बात कर रहे हो हर जना डिजाइन की बात कर रहा है, so
Correct. Correct.
so
Correct.
there is no, and so
Yeah.
you like Shubhangi's given kaleidoscope, that tagline, myriad perspectives of design. So every day सुबह से शाम तक हम तो सिर्फ डिजाइन की ही बात कर रहे हैं और मतलब मंथन कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर, like it's not just making design, but you're really, so yeah,
Agree.
we'd love to have you over, and we'll figure out something.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Bhavyajeet,
Thank you so much.
and I'm so glad that I joined. Shubhangi as had been telling me, ke, come for this one, ma'am, come for this one, you like it, uh, because she also probably knows me a little. So it's been such a pleasure. It's been a good evening.
Same. 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 Thank you, Shubhangi, for mediating this, and it was really nice. You also coordinated with me before the event, so thank you for that. Thank you, Prachi. And
Thank
thank you everyone else who joined. You guys can really reach out to me because I knew how life is when there is no one to ask questions to. So you can obviously DM anyone or me for sure. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Wonderful.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you for being patient with us and just like sitting through the session. Now we're at 8:45 and we promised we'll end at 8:30, but we're all chatterboxes who like to go on. But design is what we like to talk about. We're very passionate about it. Thank you, Bhavyajeet, for joining us. And I was very excited for this one because it seems very personal. I was also very excited about it. So thank you for saying yes, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I knew that you would like this one, and that's why I was like, why don't you come? So yeah, um, somebody is asking, can I get the recording link, please? With the event video will be up on our YouTube page, so you can find us, like, share, subscribe, and then you'll see the video. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Good night with
Good
that.
night. Good night.
Right.